recently lost the bid to hold the 2004 Olympic Games, it was up to the Agip Rally to entertain the large number of sports fans in Cape Town. Round 6 of the National Championship drew a large crowd to the Brackenfell shopping centre where the start and stage 1 took place. With 5 rallies gone, the season is turning out to be the most competitive of the 90s. 11 times champion Cyril van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff lead the title race for Daewoo and have a clear advantage over Toyota's reigning champion Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide.
So this rally, you're the one who's doing the chasing?
Yeah, you know, after 2 events, mechanical problems, we've dropped from first leading the championship down to 5th, so it's a bit of a disappointment. I hope I can have a good run on this event, and you know, it's difficult and it's going to be quite tough out there.
The Agip Rally continued the modern trend of the opening stage being a spectator-friendly affair in the tight confines of a car park. Drivers and navigators detest them though. Damso and Bonafide were first into the special and had the unenviable task of sweeping the tarmac for those following. Hold on, now we're going to take you for a drive in a parking lot. However, the pair did a workmanlike job in the Castrol Toyota Conquest to stop the clocks at 1 minute and 21 seconds. It does remind one of looking for a parking space at any one of 100 shopping centres in South Africa on a Saturday morning though, doesn't it? Next to tackle the twisty car park was Supervan and Boshoff's 2-litre Daewoo Cielo. South Africa's best-known driver who has a Westbank Modified Championship as well as 3rd place in the Le Mans 24-hour and a Daytona 24-hour win to his credit, was in a determined mood and went 1 second better than Damso to take the early rally lead. Fortunately, crews get an opportunity to walk this stage before the start. Finding your way through the maze of safety tape would be very frustrating otherwise. Behind them were Sasol Rally winners Enzo Keen and the vastly experienced gentleman navigator Guy Hodgson in the other Daewoo. Their job for the remainder of the season is to ride shotgun for their championship-leading teammates. Nonetheless, Keen was entertaining as he kept up the pace to stop the clocks with the 3rd fastest time, and the crowds lapped it up. After running in the Formula 2 class in the previous events, Jannie Habig and Douglas Judd finally took the plunge and converted their Stanbrick Golf to S16 specifications. The work paid off as they hustled the Golf round quickly enough to equal Keen's time. After a cautious start to the season, while they got used to the Formula 2 Sasol Ford Escort RS2000, Paulo Piazzamusso and Nick Haddon's performances lately have been real eye-openers. They were desperate for good result and set off to prove a point. This incident, however, was to cost a couple of valuable seconds, and they finished 5 down on the more powerful car of Van der Merwe. That they ended the test 2 seconds behind their class rival, Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Absa Props Golf. The giant-killing act of the season has come from KwaZulu-Natal's Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. They hold 2nd place in the points log and lead Class S18 by the proverbial country mile. With an enthusiastic crowd to perform to, Kali van der Merwe and Charles Reeler did not disappoint in their 2.8-litre rear-wheel drive Nissan Skyline. Unfortunately, the car does not conform to current regulations and they have to run in Class S20, where they were unable to score national championship points. But it didn't stop them from giving it a full go, and the fans just loved it. That's why the fire engine was there. From Brackenfell, the event moved to the well-known Killarney racetrack for stage 2, which was a combination of tar and gravel. Damso and Bonafide set the early pace, the Toyota sounding crisp in full flight, and Serge knowing that nothing less than a win on this event would have to do. With the Toyota beating Van der Merwe by a massive 7 seconds, Keen had the hard task of reeling in the Toyota. The lanky blonde did not disappoint and matched Damso's time. Others tried a bit, too hard. Piazza Musa was in full flight, but got it wrong and slithered into a fence and put a massive dent in his pride and the escort. Lawrence's hopes of another class-winning performance were short-lived. Halfway through the stage, the Toyota's motor started sounding rather rough and began blowing its oil out through the breather. And it wasn't long before he parked it for good. In desperate need for a good result was the Dane Radio Unit's Toyota crew of Hergen Fecken and Dave Lefkovich. And a very, very lucky escape for Terry Brandt and Monty Ulifi, who found old-skinned rally tyres not suited to gravel. No harm done, and they were back in the hunt rather quickly. With both Piazza Musa and Brandt losing time here, Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding moved the Absa Props Golf into the Formula 2 lead. Another regular Class S20 entry is the Automark Toyota of Top Car publisher Doug Hotstuff Kemsley and Jerry Gericke. And by the way, that fire under the car has nothing to do with Doug's name. Volkswagen's Group N entries were not having a good time. Kees Klein suffered a broken rotor and Trish Evans bore the brunt of his frustration, while Kemsley had his oil fire put out by the marshals. This is Joe Enriquez Fourie, Volkswagen's other Group N entry. Whoops, hold on. Hey, no. Young Richard Bem proves to Peter Chadwick that the laws of physics can be broken. And I said go that way. Oh, that way. The first real service point was after Killarney, and there were some rather worried faces in the Daewoo camp.
Enzo, 2 stages down, but you've got problems.
Yes, I'm not very happy. Engine's using a lot of oil, and I think it's actually draining more power than I thought it would. So it's not feeling very good though, but you know, we'll try and get it to the end. It's important, so we'll drive it till it dies.
Well, that's what most drivers say. The third special stage was a gravel affair of just over 17 kilometers, and with the sun low on the horizon, most regarded it as the first real test. Damso had the advantage of being first on the road, leaving a huge cloud of dust in his wake for the rest to have to contend with, and again had the measure over Van der Merwe, who was obviously trying very, very hard. They don't call him Sideways Saddle for nothing. If Keen's engine was down on power, it certainly didn't show, and he went on to record the second fastest time, just 2 seconds slower than the Toyota. The Sassel Ford Escort was also going well, and Piazza Musa proved the fastest of the F2 contingent. Next best in the class were Brandt and Ulifi in the Jimco Volkswagen Golf. Apart from fast straights, this stage also had some twisty bits through a farm, rallying's version of the Monaco Grand Prix. With Lawrence and Paisley out, Team Total's hopes rested on the shoulders of Barry Grobler and Mike Burrows in their Class S18 Golf. Also in Class S18 is the rapid Wurf-back Toyota Conquest of Berto Mostert and Andre Vermeulen, who have made a very good impression so far this season. The local crew of Willem Lowe and Johan Barnard were also going well in their Golf Mark III. Those further back had already fitted lights in anticipation of darkening skies. This Golf belongs to Port Elizabeth's fastest traffic cop Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch, while Dean Saunders was leading the Group N battle for Toyota. More locals, from Klein Monta, Pierre Goosen and Ossie de Jong. They have a very high finishing rate and could be one of the surprises. Group N championship leader Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen lost a lot of time when their Daewoo stopped at Killarney, but they were finally back up to speed. And as the sun said its goodbyes, some teams took stock.
Douglas, you've got problems.
Yes, Steve, after stage 2, our clutch packed up and we had a lot of public traffic on the road, and that just caused a bit more trouble. And it's gone completely now, so now at the start of the stage we have to switch the car off, put it into gear and then get started on the starter motor. luckily the gearboxes are quite strong, so we manage in the stage to maintain our speed, but we are dropping a little bit of time. We'll have to wait until tonight to fix it, and then tomorrow morning we'll be back up to speed again.
Indeed, Douglas, as they say in the classics, môre is nog 'n dag. Stage 4 was a short, rough stage, and out front it was a tactical game of cat and mouse as Damso set a blistering pace, and then Van der Merwe set an identical time. There's very little difference in the performance of these two cars, clearly. Both have state-of-the-art sequential gearboxes and 16-valve 2-litre motors. Next along was Keen, but he was 5 seconds slower and the best of the rest. Piazza Musa and Haddon continued to set the standard in the less powerful Formula 2 category. Service time again. The bright lights have transformed Philadelphia into Tinseltown, but it wasn't time to admire the quaint village, and Piazza Musa was upbeat about his chances.
Paula, did you lose time in the stage?
About 8 seconds to the Deus and to Serge, but we took, I think, 20 seconds off Yanni, so it went quite well.
There wasn't time to do much more than change wheels and clean gnats off the windscreen before it was time to move on. The final time section of the evening was stage 6, back at Killarney Race Circuit on a similar route as the earlier stage. Fekken and Lefkovic had started moving up the order, but lost a bit of time here, and that left them third in their class. Still without a clutch, Havik and Judd were another crew to lose time. They lost over 10 seconds to the Ford Escort. It was a stage Brunt won't forget in a hurry. His unsuited tyres caught him out, and the Golf slid into a wall and punctured a tyre, which left an evil handling car for most of the way. Ultimately, he was almost a full minute slower than Damso. Meanwhile, Van der Walt and Harding were adopting their usual cautious approach to the first day, but had lost the Formula 2 lead to the Ford Escort. Mostert and Vermeulen moved ahead of the Fekken Lefkovic car and ended the day in 9th place with 9 seconds in hand over Fekken. Team totals Tony Ball and Brian Duncan were just outside the top 10, but they, like Van der Walt, also erred on the side of caution for the first day. At the final control, Damso and Bonafide clocked in a minute late, for which they incurred a 10-second penalty. That left Van der Merwe and Boshoff in the lead, followed by Keen and Hodgson.
So, you lost a lot of time on stage 5. What happened?
We lost fuel pressure on the second last stage, so that put us down. It was a very fast, high-speed stage, so unfortunately we didn't go very well. And then, of course, the last stage, the Killarney, we also made a bit of a mess there. So anyway, tomorrow we'll see. It's another day.
Day 2 started early, and it was expected to be another scorcher, although not as bad as Friday's 34 degrees. Talking figures, 63 cars started the rally, but after day 1, there were only 52 survivors.
Paolo, you've got a 30-second lead in the Formula 2 category. You must be thinking about your first win there.
That would definitely be nice. 30 seconds, not much of a gap, but I think we'll try and work to extend that. But I do have an eye on a podium finish. I would really like to give the Sasol Ford Escort a podium finish and an F2 win. So we'll see how it goes today.
Day 2's geographical layout of the rally route, starting just outside Durbanville, up the west coast to Riebeek West, a lunch stop in Mariatsburg, and then on to the peaceful village of Malmesbury, and then finally back to Killarney Racetrack. The early stages were reruns of those that were used the previous evening, and Damso had to beat the Daewoo drivers by 10 seconds to regain the lead. With Supervan first on the road, Damso was able to do the chasing, but it seemed that Van had everything under control, thank you very much. He looked smooth and relaxed. Then Keen and Hodgson tackled the stage and turned on the heat to emerge with a 12-second advantage over the elder statesmen of rallying. But there was talk of Keen having picked up a 30-second penalty for clocking out of the holding area or park for May 3 minutes late. Now it was Toyota's turn, and Damso promptly went 4 seconds quicker than Keen. Rough or not, he makes it look so easy, doesn't he? Piazza Musa also turned up the wick and recorded the same time as Van der Merwe. Our in-car camera gives an idea of how much work is done in a top-line rally driver's office. More important, though, was that he extended his Formula 2 lead over Van der Walt by a further 17 seconds, and this was with a broken rear anti-roll bar. Not exactly an early morning Sunday drive, is it? Van der Walt didn't have a smooth run either. Broken bolts in the Golf's rear suspension meant rear wheel steering, and that cost him a lot of extra time. Mechanical woes were also in store for Habich and Judd. They broke a side shaft, had a spin, and lost 3 minutes while spectators push-started them after the starter motor decided to pack it in. Short-lived joy for Daewoo at the top of the board, as Enzo explains.
Enzo, you've established yourself as the clear leader now.
We had a problem with the engine harness in the service area this morning, and changed the harness, and then the car wouldn't go. It was running on 2 cylinders, so we had to change it back. That cost us lateness. So we've taken penalty on lateness, but we just took the stage by 12 seconds. So the car seems to be all right now, but we have to make up the lateness, and that'll probably take us all day.
Jean-Pierre Damso has the right genes to make it in rallying and was giving a good account of himself by leading the S18 class comfortably in his Team Total Toyota Conquest. For a change, Brunton Olivier had a good run and took 2 seconds off the class-leading Ford Escort. Recent rains had left the road soft in places, and it was a bumpy ride at the sharp end of a rally. Helgen Fecken was beginning to catch JP Damso with some committed driving. A class win, after all, was at stake. Ball refused to be drawn into the frantic pace out front and was quite happy to adopt a wait-and-see strategy. Often this pays off handsomely. Just ask Van der Walt. With a crankshaft seal leaking oil onto his clutch, Grobler had little hope of Class S18 honours. Also going well were locals Diffie Marie and Dani Duval in the 1600cc Uno, which was leading Class S19. Rally cars are built to survive harsh treatment, but there are always problems sooner or later.
JP, you've had a good run, but you seem to have problems.
Yeah, this morning in the first stage we started getting an oil leak, and now it's just gotten worse, so we have to repair it now. Else it can damage the engine.
And you got a misfire as well.
Yeah, it's getting worse as well, so things are going wrong today.
The peace and tranquility of man and beast in the Riebeek West area was shattered. So was the confidence of Terry Brunt, because when things go wrong for him, they really go wrong. On the longest special stage of the event, stage 9, the luckless golf driver picked up 2 punctures. This after lending his spare to Jannie Habich. No such problems for Goosen and de Jong as their ultra-reliable and well-sorted golf completes another special stage without fuss or drama. The event had been tough on the Group N cars, and Sanders and Hooper were the only championship contenders left in the competition. As the rally finally settled into a pattern, Coleman began moving up the order and was soon challenging for a top 3 place in S18. Likewise, Lowe and Barnard were also enjoying a trouble-free run and had moved into the important top 15. There aren't as many Class S19 cars as in the old days, and the local crew of Chris Tritter and Rikke Smit had moved into 3rd place in the class. Rallying in the Western Cape boasts a strong following, and Kobus Eerders and Derek Jacobs are amongst the most enthusiastic in their neatly turned out Toyota Conquest. Although the big Skyline is forced to run outside of the top 20, it would have been knocking on the door of a top 10 place, and its guttural roar is music to spectators' ears. After 2 punctures on the previous stage, Brunt's service crew quickly went to work on a job they knew fairly well by now.
Terry, you got 2 punctures. Why?
Steve, I honestly can't tell you. I don't know how we got them. It was a little bit rough here and there, but I started feeling that we were losing power. Obviously the front was going flat, and then eventually both left side wheels went flat. We must have clipped something somewhere, but exactly where I can't tell you.
Water splashes are great vantage points for spectators. For drivers, though, they're a nightmare. Wet electrics have cost many a driver a win or a good placing. Van der Merwe adopted a cautious approach and lost a lot of time in the process. Keane, on the other hand, threw caution to the wind and the water and splashed through 4 or 5 seconds quicker. He got away with this one. No hint of any misfire in this motor. Agip was carrying over 100 kilograms of ballast to meet the Class S16 regulations, and as a result, the shocks were taking a pounding and he was losing time. Still, he adopted the conservative approach and continued on his merry and safe way. Tony Ball might be vertically challenged, but he's not short of the bits that make men go fast. 10 out of 10, and he gets the Big Splash Award, even though the Goss rear bumper is all but ripped off. The Formula 2 class leaders had other reasons for losing time.
Paolo, that was a costly stage.
Yeah, unfortunately we broke a drive shaft, which cost us about 1:20, but I think we're still maintaining 4th and the class lead. So if we can maintain the pace, I'm sure we can make it to the top.
Special Stage 12 was a rerun of the popular Farmyard, and Damso asserted his control on the event by taking the fastest time again. Keane was next best, while the Sassel Ford set the pace in Formula 2 after the delay on the previous stage. Class S18 was a tangy affair and was turning into a Mostert benefit as his rivals ran into all sorts of trouble. After taking the class lead, Fecken and Lefkovic all but destroyed their Toyota Conquest on number 11, which left Mostert with a big lead. Goosen and de Jong were quickest of the 1600cc S19 cars here and had built up a useful class lead during the morning. In Group N, Alan Worms and Ashley Gierek had hauled their lesson engineering Opel Corsa into second place by dint of consistent driving. At Mariatsburg, the venue for lunch, we caught up with Berto Mostert, Class S18 leader.
Berto, despite all your problems earlier, you're leading your class.
Yes, I think it's a just award for all we went through this week, for blowing the engine and then having all the trouble and only fixing it on Thursday evening. But it's a pity Harrigan went out. It's quite a tricky stage, that. But despite from the hot and the muckies, it's enjoyable to driving this car. With a little bit of less power, but still it's enjoyable. It's very nice.
That's what rallying is all about. Keane dominated stage 14, taking 18 seconds off the rally leaders Damso and Bonafide, and threw off Van der Merwe, who he led by almost 30 seconds. A change of shocks had transformed the handling of Agip, and he was in full flight as he scorched through to record the next best time. Maiden victory in their sights, Piazza Musso and Haddon weren't about to take any chances, but had a clean run to emerge as fastest of the F2 contenders, which was now minus Brunt, whose motor overheated before lunch. More bad luck. Their only opposition left was Van der Walt and Harding, who looked set to keep up their 100% finishing record this season. They were holding a steady 6th place in the overall standings and had settled for second in class. Fastest of the depleted S18 class was JP Damso, still with a sick car but with lots of vocal support. He was not about to give it up. Mostert too was spurred on by the local encouragement and recorded the fastest time for the class. Like Piazza Musso, he also had a maiden class win in his sights. With 2 short stages left, Keane was well ahead of his teammate. Now it was time for team manager Johan Evertsen to issue team orders. Keane would keep the pressure on Damso and incur a lateness penalty at the final control to allow championship leader Van der Merwe to get second place. The stage through Malmesbury Town Centre has always been popular and provides the inhabitants with their only opportunity of seeing motorsport up close. There was a last-minute scare for Keane before the final special stage, which was back at Killarney. Bushes in the rear suspension had worked loose. With Keane's handling not quite up to scratch, Van der Merwe won the stage and, as expected, took second place after Keane clocked into a control late enough to pick up 30 seconds of lateness. Damso and Bonafide had the rally in the bag and took a well-deserved win to keep them in the championship hunt. Piazza Musso and Haddon's hard work paid off as they took their first win in the Formula 2 category with 4th place. A great drive from Cully van der Merwe and Charles Rieler saw them bring the skyline home in 7th and to claim the S20 win too. Sanders lost the Group N win due to technical infringements, and the win thus went to the youthful Opel crew of Worms and Jericho. Volkswagen walked off with the manufacturer's prize, and they now lead Toyota by 13 points, while Daewoo lag behind in 3rd, but lead the driver's title race. Finally, it was well-deserved bubbly for Damso and Bonafide.